Hi there, Leanne from the Vermilion District Chamber of Commerce. This video is with Erwin Warkentin, who is a candidate for the Town of Vermilion Council. Just a reminder that all of our candidates have been asked the same questions in the same order without previous knowledge of what the questions will be. And our questions have been submitted by the public. And also just an encouragement for everybody who is eligible to get out and vote on October 18th. So I will just throw it over to you, Erwin, and you can kind of give us an idea as to who you are and why you decided to run again this time.
All right. My name is Erwin Warkentin, as you just heard. I am a commercial pilot and flight instructor by training. I am a stay-at-home dad also to a large degree when I'm not flying, which is quite often now to two boys. I am a Rotarian. I am the chair of the Canada Flag Project, so all the flags that you see around town, I'm part of that team. I just happen to be the figurehead that is the chair, but I'm part of an amazing team with our Rotary Club helping put up those flags. I also sit on the Airport Advisory Committee for the Town of Vermilion, and I've enjoyed my work that I've done with them. And I am the current Vice President of the Vermilion River Flying Club. Some of the core values that I would bring to council are honesty, fiscal transparency, and practical solutions. And I would seek opportunities where we can attract more business to establish themselves, whether they be someone coming in from outside or a made in Vermilion solution. I am willing to listen to all opinions. I am by no means an expert in everything. So if somebody has an opinion that comes from a lot of experience and a lot of expertise, I am more than willing to listen to what they have to offer, because I think we need to be listening to experts as well as our own ideas of what we have, because together we can actually make Vermilion a place that we're all proud of where we come from, where we live, but it's something that we can be proud of. And by working together, we can keep this generation viable for the future generations. Like everyone says, this election is the most important in the history, and I say that for every election because it helps set the course. So that's who I am in a nutshell. And yeah, as part of small business, my wife is a small business owner in town as well.
Excellent. So I think that you pretty well answered our first question, because it was how long have you lived in the community and how are you involved in the community? So if there was anything else you wanted to add, we can do that now.
Yeah, so I'm involved in a number of different ways. And another way that I've been involved with, I'm not shy about it. When my church has lost its youth pastor, and they were trying to find someone to fill in the role. So it was supposed to be a temporary role, but we're in the middle of a pandemic and everything. So a 3-month kind of temporary interim position, which also included responsibilities as the Edge drop-in center. I took it over for a whole year, and now we got a great young man and his wife are moved into town from elsewhere. And yeah, so that's where else. I mean, I'm a guy that I'm willing to step in where needed. And sometimes my wife says, slow down. You have only so much time. 2 boys now, and my goodness, any parent out there realizes even 1 kid is a full-time work.
Very true. Okay, so being that expenses and the cost of living have increased, as a future councillor, would you agree taxes are too high in Vermilion? And if so, how would you propose to lower, or at the very least hold them the same over the next few years?
Well, that's a tough one. And part of AUMA, when they put out their guidance in terms of when we're running, we shouldn't be over promising things we can on taxes. I kind of agree with that ideals that we can. I'll promise to lower taxes, and I'll do this because I'm one of 7 individuals, 5 other councillors, and a mayor. So that is, we all have to work together. And to that effect, I've also noted, like with a lot of housing prices, they've actually depressed. So it's actually going to be really hard to say, hey, I'm going to lower taxes, because with housing prices kind of holding level or going down a little bit, because in the middle of all this, my wife and I, we sold 1 house, bought another, and the prices are lower a little bit. But costs have gone up. So I would do my best to try to find efficiencies, or if there's projects out there that we've partnered as a town with other outside agencies, how much are they willing to take over to maybe make more of an efficiency out of something? Because if we're putting money into something that is basically run by another organization, is there something we can do to help them maybe just take it over? Not costing anyone's job or anything else like that, but just some way to kind of trim some things out that is already being done well by another agency within town.
Vermilion is a beautiful town and is flourishing so nicely. My concern is with the trailer park area. There are many young families that live in that area, but the roads are still gravel and no sidewalks, but yet the taxes are high. For instance, the submitter says that theirs is approximately $1,700 per year. During winter months, there is no street cleaning that happens, and in the summer months, the roadways get wet and muddy from the substance the town uses and the rain. The residents know their taxes will increase if paving does happen, but it might be worth finding out if that is possible. Would you advocate for change in this area? It would be nice to see this area cleaned up where families can teach their kids how to ride a bike or learn to skateboard.
Yeah, I think that's a real, and that came up last election as well about Pelkeyville, and it was a bit of a joke. There's no love for Pelkeyville, and they're wonderful residents that live there, and I would seek every opportunity where we're focusing more on doing a lot of street projects all together to keep costs lower, and I think that is a really good idea, because when we're looking at paving a couple of roads, why not include and think about the individuals that live on these gravel roads? I know that was an issue in the industry area as well, that the gravel was affecting the residents into the airport subdivision because of all the dust that would be kicked up. And so I mean, when I lived in the airport subdivision, I mean, that was a bit of a problem. So I would find every opportunity when we're doing these road projects to consider adding that Pelkeyville or that the trailer park aspect to it, because if we can lower the costs for that, I think that benefits for everybody involved, especially with no sidewalks and having young kids. I have when I go to pick up the mail, I'm trying to go with my son who's almost 2, and let's go walk to get the mail. But if we have people whizzing down a road, it's not a safe environment. So absolutely, I would look for sidewalks, for roads, and try to do big projects all together so we can keep the costs lower.
Why are taxpayers paying for an economic development department that attracts competitors, such as restaurants, that could possibly put our pre-existing businesses out of business? Sorry, Erwin. What new businesses do you think would be a positive addition to our town?
I've talked to a few people, because I've run into the situation before myself, is actually small appliance repair. We go and it's a frequent question that hits up on various pages that are within our community on Facebook or whatever social media aspect. So someone that does small appliance repair, because that's a question. Who do I go to fix my dishwasher? Who do I go to fix my washing machine that I ran into? And there's no one in town that I've come across that's been recommended to me that can do repair work on warranted items, unless you go out of town. And we're normally pointing people to Vegreville and to Lloydminster to do that. And if we had to take the item with us, we're going to Vegreville and Lloydminster. And guess what we're doing? We're going to go shopping. We're going to go buy restaurant foods and everything else. So taking small businesses like that, and it's something as simple as small appliance repair. We try to attract somebody in and get them to see that value. It's going to keep our residents in town just a little bit more, and we're going to spend that money, instead of at somebody else's restaurant out of town, we're going to spend it on somebody's restaurant in town.
Unless you are a World War II vet, COVID is by far the largest crisis of our lifetime. Such crises require steadfast and strong response to minimize damages. While Vermilion has been very lucky so far to have avoided a COVID catastrophe, the province as a whole has not. While other municipalities have actively responded to the COVID crisis with strong safety measures and messaging, the town of Vermilion, in contrast, has not been a strong promoter of COVID safety information or safety measures. Rather, the number of mental health posts on the town Facebook page are dozens of times more frequent than safety information for the pandemic. COVID is a crisis of community, which needs the leaders to lead the community, but that didn't happen. Would you have responded any differently to the COVID crisis had you been on town council? And specifically, what will you do differently if elected?
if I'm not mistaken, just to give a little bit of credit to the current councillors and our current mayor and administration, that the day that the province issued a whole bunch of mandates and lockdown, that very day they were actually supposed to be holding an emergency or an out of sequence council meeting to make that decision. So just to give them a little bit of credit, that decision came the same day they were going to make a decision, but when the provinces and our province announced their decision, the council, it was moot. I mean, there was no need because the province had their own recommendation. What I would have probably done differently is try to hold that a lot sooner. We need to be at least seen that we're working together, and we need to be having that conversation sooner in public. Whatever the decision may have been, I think we needed to have the conversation sooner, because the town residents were, and myself, like, what's your choice? What's your decision? And it was such a hot potato. I think to show leadership, you can at least show that you're out in the open having that conversation rather than trying to kick that can down the road. But I do want to give them credit that they were going to have it, albeit later than I would have liked to. They were going to have that conversation. Just made no point at that point when the province came out with their own.
What do you think of the current road cleaning services like snow plowing and street sweeping? What would you do to improve it?
I have a bit of a bias. I live on a road with a hill, so we do see quite a bit of that. I'm lucky in that regard, is that in the wintertime, when I first moved to where I am right now, there was some difficulty getting up that hill, but there's enough of us that I think that we made enough noise to the town to say, hey, you need to be clearing a little bit more, otherwise because people are getting stuck on the street. So I do see that. So I think we do need to be listening to the residents a little bit more, hear about those hotspot areas, and react to it better, because what the last thing someone wants is to voice a complaint. Shall we just call it what it is? It's a complaint, and not being heard. So and if you have that issue, talk to your other neighbors. I think we need to be more community minded about some of those things, is that we don't need to be thinking we're on our own, because we're all probably thinking the same thing. And so we need to talk to a couple of neighbors and say, hey, houses all down this road, we need something done about this. And usually when you get a larger group of people together to voice that concern, I think we need to be more proactive as a resident than as a council. We need to be responding to that. Is that you have 20 residents down the street saying this sucks. We need to respond to that. And I think that's a way we need to work together on things, because sometimes one voice is tough to be alone, but if you can get some supporters, but we need to be listening to that too.
If you received a $1 million grant, no strings attached, for the town, how would you use it and why?
Debt repayment. Debt repayment. That's probably one of the bigger things, because we're having to be in a position where we've had a lot of big ticket items either require replacement through or upgrade. And where we've borrowed a lot to make that. Sometimes it's no fault of our own. And there's other big ticket items that are coming down the road that we know we need to take care of. And we're starting to take actions to make sure we can start paying for some of these things. But I would put it down as debt repayment, get rid of some of these bills, and relieve the tax burden for the future residents and the future taxpayers of Vermilion.
Okay. And our last question is, what is the number one thing that you wish to accomplish in your 4 years as councillor?
Big one would be fiscal transparency. Sometimes when council makes decisions, and I get asked, I mean, I follow council meetings quite regularly, and I guess pre-pandemic, there was barely a council meeting that I missed. I'd even brought my infant son to one meeting, giving mama a night off, and he sleeps through most anything. I just want to make sure people know where their money is coming from, because sometimes there's a misconception as how money is being spent or what pool of money is coming from. Sometimes some things come out of grant money, and we're not advertising that as hard as we can. We just saying town spent X number of dollars on project Y, and some people say, well, hey, that's my tax money. What a useless thing. But when we could have just said, hey, this was a grant, grant money given to us by the province for this project. I think we need to be more transparent about exactly what pool, and not the difficult thing sometimes is that where I catch things when I miss meetings, I go back to those minutes and I said, okay, that's where that's coming from. You don't want to have a resident go through minute after council meeting after council after minutes minutes to try and find, okay, that's where that money came from exactly, because newspapers have so much space, social media only has so many characters sometimes, or how they're trying to convey they've had this great new thing, but we need to be able to tell them, or yeah, hey, you know what, we screwed up, we missed saving enough for this is coming out of taxes, and that's why there's this a little extra that we're asking for from the town. So we need to be exactly transparent and not shy about it, because a great lesson that was my grandmother, my Oma, had said is that just be honest. When people find out that you've kind of fudged the truth, it's going to make it worse in the long run. Just be honest about it right from the get-go. That if we messed up, we messed up, but own it. And if there's something great that's happening, and this is how we're paying for it from a grant money, hey, let's celebrate that this is not coming out of your pocketbook.
Oh, that's good. So that completes our questions. So now, if there's anything else that you'd like to say, now would be a good time for that.
One of the big things that I learned last time around with our civic elections, that every single vote counts. I guess 6th place and 7th place know that more than anybody else, is that the difference in vote was 7 that decided our last election. Tell me that your vote didn't count. When I was sitting around a table of my friends and I looked at, there's more of us here than the difference of the vote. That tells me that every single vote counts, especially in a population like Vermilion with 13 people running. That is the biggest thing I can say, is get out and vote. I hope absolutely you vote for me. I hope that my community work in this town has shown you that I'm willing to roll up my sleeves. I am for fiscal transparency. I am for honesty. I'm also for practical solutions, because sometimes I love thinking outside of the box, but sometimes we just need to change the box we're thinking out of, because a practical made in Vermilion solution, you go talk to some of the old guys and old gals that have been here for years and say, well, why don't you just do this? And they're absolutely wise beyond their years, but also let's talk to our new people, our new residents, the ones that have been here for only 6, 7, 8 months. They've come with them lifetime experiences that we may benefit from. So I love practical solutions, and I hope that you vote for me October 18th.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, and good luck with the rest of your campaign.
Thank you.